Welcome to Lang's Betting Lab. We're going to go over the Hawks and the Bucks series preview, mostly from a player prop standpoint. That's what we've been dominating in the NBA playoffs, 15-5 in our last 20, showing that there's a lot of money to be made if you pay attention to the player props and can take advantage. So we just want to break down what we see are some possible trends that we can take advantage of going into the series. Both teams coming off of pretty dramatic series. Both went to Game 7. Injury is a big part of both series, mostly for the opposing team. But hey, part of succeeding is being healthy. And Steve, we've been a fan of the Atlanta Hawks. We thought the Knicks were going to beat them, and they just showed us wrong. So let's start with the Atlanta Hawks. We bet against them, admittedly, and they just won us over. So talk to me about what you've liked from the Atlanta Hawks, both from a team and player prop standpoint.
Yeah, like you said, we went against them in the first series with the Knicks and quickly learned our lesson and corrected things. And actually, we were on them against the 76ers. And, the big part of the things has obviously been Trae Young, and he's been so instrumental for this team. He's obviously the biggest player in this series. And we've been riding him at points from points or assists. I like him in this series as far as points because the Bucks really struggle to defend the perimeter. And I think that he's going to be able to also get inside with his floater. So I'm looking at Trae Young heavily in this series. I also like the Hawks from a series standpoint as a big underdog in this series. I mean, plus 360, it seems to me like it should be somewhere in the plus 200s range. So that's great value as far as I'm concerned for the series as well.
I'll go a step further and say I just don't see a clear cut. Anybody should be a big favorite. This is a Milwaukee team that struggled to put away the Brooklyn Nets, where Kyrie is out and Harden is at 65, 70% on one leg, and they needed a Game 7 in overtime to get there. And let's be honest, if Kevin Durant's foot is an inch and a half shorter, that's a 3-point shot at the end, and now we're picking apart the Bucks and wondering where do they go from here. I'm with you that plus 360 I think is bonkers. I think that is absolutely insane. And I want to talk about this prop that we've put up as part of our client package and our premium plays. Talk to me about this prop that you found. I don't know if I would have stumbled upon it or not, but you're getting Hawks plus games in this series, right?
Yeah, I love this one. You can get the Hawks plus 2.5 games at negative 130 at most books. So you're essentially saying there's going to be a Game 6. That the Bucks won't win, won't sweep them, and won't win the series 4-1. And with the Hawks being, I think, a great chance to win this series, I think that the series at least goes to 6 games, maybe 7. And I just think it's tremendous value, and it's a great play that we put up for our clients.
Especially both teams coming off of Game 7s, both series wins. So I don't understand that one. Let's get a little bit more into Hawks. They've got an injury. Bogdanovich just is not himself. I don't know how much he's going to play. When he has played, it hasn't been that effective. So you're left with Young, Capella, Herter. Had a huge breakout game. Let's talk a little bit about Capella and Herter and Collins. If there's any three of these guys, does one of them stick out to you as more important than the other, or a little bit more of a breakout, or are they all three going to contribute equally? What do you think about those three guys?
Well, looking at those three guys, I mean, Herter stands out to me as he just really set himself up for some great games in the last series towards the end. And again, going back to the Bucks struggling to defend the perimeter, I feel like when Young drives in, he's going to have time to kick out to guys like Herter. If Bogdanovich is healthy, he could benefit from that as well. Lou Williams, I mean, he's not usually on the court when Young is out there. Capella is another guy that we discussed, and I know that we both like him as far as, he's a better player than anything the Brooklyn Nets had to offer in the last series as far as playing down low against these bigs for the Bucks and, with Giannis and Lopez and whatnot.
I'm fascinated to see Capella's role because I think he's a guy that could single-handedly win a game where he just goes 11 of 15 from the field with 13 rebounds, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, that was the Clint Capella game. I think he matches up good. I think the Hawks are going to do a really good job of spreading out the interior of Milwaukee's defense. They're going to try and get Giannis out. I think Giannis is going to be on Collins, maybe, which leaves Lopez and Capella together, and in my opinion, down low, that's advantage Capella. So Lopez can hit those threes, but I like Capella as a guy to look for, maybe with some rebounds. And keep in mind, his stats don't look great coming off of the last game, but he's going up against Embiid. And even though Embiid had the knee injury, he still looked good and played really hard. So I like Capella a lot for some of these props. Game one's going to tell us a lot, I think. Let's turn our attention to the Bucks. We've been riding the Giannis under props, rebounds, and assists. This is going to be a little bit of a different look for them. So obviously Middleton, Drew Holiday, Giannis, I guess the big three. Let's start with Giannis and maybe talk a little bit about Middleton and Holiday. What do you expect from Giannis in this series? Because I thought he could have done a lot more against Brooklyn. He seemed a little tentative. His free throw sucked. His three-point shooting sucked. What do we expect from him?
I kind of expect some of the same stuff. He has big number games, like we said, but just falls under that PRA total almost every game, and we were really riding that last series. I think that could continue where you see him, score in the 30s, get double-digit rebounds, obviously, but he's not getting a ton of assists. And like you said, he struggles at the free throw line. So I think that, and like we talked about, I think Capella is more of a force down low than anything that the Nets had to offer. As far as a guy like Middleton, he's a much better shooter at home. So I'd assume that if you were going to go after his point totals, you would go for the over when he's at home. I'd be a little bit more hesitant when he's on the road. Obviously, he's the number 2 scorer with the Bucks, and then Holiday is another player for them as well. He's huge defensively, and obviously they'll have him on Trae Young. I think Young still gets his against him, though. I don't really think anyone can stop him at this point.
Yeah, he's just too fast. As good as a defender as you can be. It's very similar to Kyrie, where it's like, yeah, I don't care how fast you are. You're just not going to be faster than Kyrie Irving. You're not going to be faster than Trae Young, right?
Yeah, agreed. And he can beat you so many different ways. He can hit the three. He gets to the line a ton, which is huge in a playoff series like this. And then I just go back to that floater in the lane. No one's able to stop that, whether it be with height or anything else. No one's been able to stop that so far in the postseason.
Yeah, I'm just looking up some of Middleton's number. Yeah, the first 2 games of the series, he had 13 points and 17 points when he was in that shooting funk when they were on the road. And they had that bizarre game where he scored 35 points when they only scored 86 points. So he's got a very, very strange it's just got a very strange home road split. And even in Game 7, he played 52 minutes and had 23 points. He was 9 of 26 from the field. So I think you're on something there with Middleton. Just not he's a different player, road and home. And you just got to wonder, is it ever going to click for this guy to be a force in all 7 games? Probably not at this point, right?
I wouldn't think so. Like we've illustrated, he's really good at home and not quite as good on the road. And I just don't know if he's ever going to be that number 2 superstar for this team. He obviously is the number 2 on this team, but he doesn't have that feel of a big 2 superstar as some other teams have.
Yeah. So I think you're dead on with Middleton. If you're going to look to play his points and over, if you think he's going to have a big series, you got to look at home games and then be very, very careful when they're on the road. As far as the Trae Young, Drew Holiday, I think Drew Holiday can do some interesting things with Trae. I just don't think stopping him is going to be an option. And once he gets around Drew Holiday, that Milwaukee defense is going to collapse. And if Atlanta's hitting open shots or Capella's getting those alley-oops that we've seen, it could be a really, really long series for Milwaukee. And I'm not sure really what the adjustments are. So predictions, I guess. What do you think? Who's going to the championship out of the Eastern Conference? Is it Milwaukee or Atlanta?
It's tough, obviously Milwaukee's a huge favorite. I'll go out on a limb, though, and I'll go with Atlanta. I think that for the value especially, I love it as far as a series price, and I love that plus 2.5 that we did as well. That to me is just that's a tremendous play because, like I said, you basically just got to get to Game 6, and that's a cash. So I'll go with Atlanta. I'll take Atlanta. I'll go out on the limb and go with the Hawks.
I'm going to say I don't even think you're going out on a limb. If we just compare the two best players on the teams, Trae Young, okay, well, he's a point guard, and he can control the offense, and he can hit free throws, and he can hit three-pointers. The best player on Milwaukee is Giannis, who is not a point guard, who cannot control the offense from the perimeter, who cannot hit free throws, and who cannot hit three-pointers. I think it's a big advantage when it comes down to clutch time for Atlanta. I think Atlanta's got the best closer in this series, and I don't think that can be understated. I am still stunned that you're getting plus 360 on Atlanta. And if you do like Atlanta, but you think Milwaukee might steal game one, you could roll the dice and maybe see if Milwaukee, gets game one, and then you're going to get Atlanta for the series at, gosh, I don't know what, 5.5 to 1, 6 to 1. But if Atlanta gets game one, look out, you just lost all your value. So, but I'm with you, Steve. I like Atlanta. I think when in today's NBA, when it comes down to it, I'll take the scoring point guard who's really, really cemented himself as a premier player. So, Steve, this was great stuff. I think we showed some people what we can do with player props, and all of our plays and the player props can be found on WagerTalk.com. And we've been great in this postseason. We've really hit our stride. 15-5 our last 20 player props. Hit some 4% and 5% plays. It's been a really, really good postseason, and we don't anticipate slowing down. So, Steve, thanks for joining us. This has been really, really great. Let's cash those tickets. Let's make some money in the Eastern Conference Finals. Good luck.
Enjoy the games, everyone.